All right. So in today's workshop, what we are going to do is we are going to have first a discussion with some of the couple of senior business analysts which we have invited, and they are going to tell us about their profession and how did they become business analysts. There are certain specific set of questions which we're going to ask them that will be pretty beneficial to you also. Then we'll have a presentation on the career path of a business analyst. What is the opportunity and what are the different certifications available? Then we'll have a slightly different perspective which is specific to Agile projects or the Scrum methodology, where product owner is something which is very similar to a business analyst. Okay, how does that role sound and what are the opportunities there? And finally, in the end also, we'll have a Q&A session. We can have Q&A session at the end of each of the subsections as well. So with me, my name is Abhishek Srivastava, and with me we have Dinab Bansal and we have Swapnil Patil. These are both senior business analysts. So I'm just going to have a chit chat with them with some specific questions about the business analyst role and related aspects. Okay. So the first question which I would like to ask them is, I would like to know what is their current job profile? What exactly do they do? So who would like to start, Swapnil or Dinab?
Okay, I can start. If Dinab is willing, he can also start.
You go ahead.
Okay, Swapnil, yeah, you can start.
Yeah, sure. So let's be very specific to this because we will have very short time. So I will just give it in a brief idea. Currently, I'm working as a lead business analyst, and the methodology that we are using is Agile. So let's, as we say, current job profile, it is all about working as a team member, not as a BA, but specifically as a team member in an Agile project. So we have all sort of like requirements, user stories, interacting with team, stakeholder management, and of course you have some sort of testing on the applications, and followed by sprint demos and retrospectives. So this is in a nutshell what I'm currently performing, and the current domain which I'm working is insurance domain.
Okay, and typically what is the time you spend in interacting with the customer?
Yeah, basically if you see Agile, it's very short. We don't spend more. So it's basically your grooming calls. So daily I have 2 grooming calls. So it's approximately 45 minutes with the customer in one call and then 30 minutes in another customer. So I have 2 different calls. So it's approximately, you can say 1.5 hour with the customer on a grooming call.
All right, cool. So just to clarify for everyone, when Swapnil is saying grooming, it means that he's talking about updating the requirements, list of requirements or the repository of requirements where requirements are managed. Okay, that's what is meant by grooming. Okay, so Dinab, thanks for your answer, Swapnil. Dinab, would you like to go next?
Sure. So currently I'm working as a business analyst or a product owner for accounting and taxation domain. And the current profile, as Swapnil mentioned, it's more or less the same. So I am responsible for gathering requirements from different set of clients, converting those particular requirements into user stories, writing backlogs, prioritizing those requirements, and I'm also part of grooming sessions. Although we are not having grooming calls every day like Swapnil does, but we are keeping them once a week or twice a week as and when required. So I am also part of a couple of teams, agile teams as a team member, but I'm working as in the capacity of a product owner over here.
Okay, good. So let's move on and get to the next question. Did you start as a business analyst or you start later and move on to become a business analyst? How did you start your career and at what point in time did you move in to become a business analyst or a product owner?
Okay, so I started my career as a Java developer, to be very specific, when I passed out from my engineering college. So I started as a Java developer. Working in my current organization, I came across some opportunity where then I started as an entry-level BA. So this is how I started my career as a BA. And the main reason how I participated as an BA was my interest showing with the management or the team members that I'm more eager to interact with customers, and I love documentation and functional side. So these were the area that gave me that opportunity to enter into that entry-level BA job.
And at what stage in your career did you move into the entry-level business analyst?
Yeah, it is, I will say, approximately 1.5 years after working as a Java developer. So after passing my graduation, I worked as a Java developer for 1.5 years. And then I started with the entry-level BA.
Oh, good, good. Dinab, would you like to
Yep. So
tell about yourself?
initially I started off working in a captive center as a technical support expert. So this was we used to support customers, troubleshoot the issues for customers, laptops, printers. So basically it was a captive center. Then I got an opportunity with another organization uh, as a business analyst because I completed my MBA in systems management, and the first project I did was comparative analysis and doing gap analysis. So the company actually liked what the work I actually did in terms of comparative analysis, because that was a solution which was based on power management and how we can actually create more greener and effective solutions for different clients. That was the entry level position, entry level, how I got my first break into the field of business analysis. I was never, unlike Swapnil, I was never fond of development, and still can't get my head around developing stuff. I can read code, but when it comes to writing code, I'm not very fond of it. But yes, I'm I'm a big fan of building client rapport, problem solving, and understanding what actually the client wants. And I think that's the basic passion I have for helping the clients. So that was the flair which did the trick for me.
And what stage did you? I mean, this was about how many years after you started your career?
About 1.5 years.
So basically, the what you can get from these two gentlemen is that it is not necessary to be an IT professional only to get into business analysis. Right? People
Yes.
from different backgrounds are also coming in. We have various cases where people are coming from travel background. People are coming from banking background, like relationship manager. People are coming from networking company. People are coming from telecom companies. So business analysis is one kind of a role which can be termed as a gateway to IT industry. Okay, a good entry point for all kinds of professionals. Okay, so moving on, I would request everyone to be on mute. I think. Okay. Okay. So now moving on, the next thing which is very relevant, at least for every new entry into business analyst role, is what are the challenges, right? So business analyst, everybody is now knowing that it's a good role. It has a lot of opportunities, but it's never an easy entry into business analyst role. Okay. So what kind of a challenges did you face? I mean, when you just started as an entry level business analyst, did you face any challenges?
Yeah, I'd like to share a couple of things, because as this profile was new, though I have an eager passion to do this, but it's never like, we always see the grass green on the other side, so that looks good. So when I started my BA career, initial few challenges that I faced was, though I am now very pretty good with customer interaction, initially I had little bit tough time like negotiating with customer, or maybe like convincing them for certain things. And second thing I will say is, initially when I started as a BA, I used to always look at solution which is at the detailed view, rather than looking from a bigger picture and then drilling it down to the smaller one. So these are like 2 or 3 things I have come across, and it's like preparing documentation, very crisp documentation. Initially, I used to prepare like very lengthy documents. Maybe some stuff was not required in that. So these are like 2 or 3 things which I face when I started with the BA. But gradually, I will say, as you enter this field and your experience moves ahead with interacting with the team, it will help you. One advantage that I got was in these initial days, I requested my senior to become a mentor for me, and with help of that person, I got definitely many skills which helped me move ahead in my career.
Good. So
Thanks,
as,
Swapnil. Yeah, yeah.
yep. So as far as I'm concerned, I think I can very clearly remember the challenges which I initially faced, which were more or less towards managing the stakeholders. Because in my first job as a business analyst, I was required to get sign-offs on documentation as well as every milestone the project had from the client, and I think that was really a tough job. After about 4 or 5 months into the organization, I was also responsible for increasing the seeds on a particular project or increasing the number of resources on the project. Although it was not my job role and responsibility, but it was very tough to actually bring in more revenue from the client. So I think I overcame those particular challenges by building a good relationship with the client. I also, as Swapnil rightly mentioned, that in the beginning, your passion for doing something which you actually like or like the most, probably creating documentation or getting to understand the problem of the client and trying to document stuff which will help the client. I think that particular passion overcomes, and you tend to write a lengthy documentation. But once you progress in your career more, I think having crisp and clear documentation is very, very important for any particular development team, because the documents we create as a business analyst, they get reviewed by a number of people, and it is like sort of a bible for the development team, because they have to build on those particular documents which we create. So it's a very important task which the business analyst also have to do. I think another challenge which I'm currently also facing is the mighty battle which goes on between a developer and a quality analyst, or probably the development team and the client. So the business analyst has to is the bridge between the development team and the clients, and you have to negotiate and try and manage the both sides of the team. I think that's a very tricky task to do, but once you get the hang of it, so you are able to manage things fine. But I think that's about it.
Yeah. Thanks, Dinap. So basically, 2 things are coming out of it is that there are going to be challenges. In fact, it's not just with the business analyst role. Challenges are everywhere. IT or any industry is pretty challenging. The environment is very competitive. But the good news is that both of these business analysts have stated to you that with effort and with time, you'll be able to overcome all these challenges. And that's the most important part. These are not challenges which you can't overcome. Okay, but you have to be a little alert. You need to keep learning. The learning is one thing which will never stop, no matter what you become. That's an important thing which you need to remember. Okay, so this is the most interesting question as far as I am concerned. What's a typical day in your work life? What do you do on a daily basis?
So to be very quick, as I said, I'm working on an Agile project. So typically my day starts with a stand-up meeting, which is just a 15 minutes meeting with the entire team. Everyone gives their update, what they did yesterday, what they're going to do today, and if they have any impediments, that is nothing but the obstacles that you have. So after that meeting, every individual will work on their individual tasks. As part of the BA, I used daily look at the backlog then if you have a current release, now if it's agile, if some of you are aware, we have sprints. So every release will have at least 2 sprints. So it's like for daily activity, I need to go through the sprint stories, and if there are any clarifications or outstanding questions which are raised, get it sorted within the team. And at the end of the day, I daily have call with customer. So we keep on grooming other stories for your future sprints. So in and about, you have 3 things. 1, a meeting with the team. 2nd, interaction with the team after the meeting. And 3rd, interaction with the customer. And after all this stuff, at the end of the day or between the day when you have time, you can work on your individual tasks like preparing stories, or let's say preparing mockups or wireframes with the help of tool. So this is how like the day-to-day activity for me works in particular agile environment on the current project.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Swapnil. Dinap, would you like to go with the
Yep.
answer?
So I'm pretty much following the same pattern as Swapnil does. My day begins with so I'm handling 2 different agile teams for different modules. So my day typically begins with a couple of stand-up calls and project related meetings as to where I am supposed to answer the queries which the development team is probably envisioning, or there's probably a scope change. Then I am rest of my day basically goes into handling different queries or different meetings, and I'm also responsible for creating design documents which are being used for different requirements. Those particular design documents are also broken down into user stories by me. And towards the in the morning, generally I have a couple of calls with the customers. It may or may not be a daily call, but yes, on and off I have a call as to, or their mails to be looked at in the day. And towards the end of the day, it's I just try and sit with the different scrum masters of respective teams and understand that what was the progress of the day, where the sprint is heading, and have a feel of the current sprint. So that's the typical day.
Okay. Okay. Just as a related question, typically in your organization, is it so that a scrum master is also kind of a alias for a project manager?
In my current organization, yeah, I got your question.
Yeah, okay.
So in my current organization, a Scrum Master is only a facilitator, and he's only supposed to ensure that the Scrum practices or the Scrum ceremonies are being adhered to. Any showstoppers or any impediments which the team is currently facing towards the progress of the sprint the Scrum Master is also responsible. There is no direct reporting of the of the team members to the Scrum Master, and the Scrum Master is also working on developing the requirements. So basically, in typically a 9-hour working day and a 8-hour effort. So 4 hours of the Scrum Master is going towards the development work, and 4 hours in a day is going towards different meetings and team management tasks. So
basically, it's a like a dual role.
Yes.
But more side on a development work, and remaining part as a Scrum Master.
Yes.
Yes, Swapnil, how is the state in your project right now?
Yeah, I'm in line with Dinap. Only a few things I would like to add. Like if you see pure agile role, there is no role of a separate project manager. But however, in our Indian industry, if you see the practical projects, there is always a project manager, even if it's agile. And Scrum Master, we do have Scrum Master, but he is entirely, as Dinap said, is more focusing on the team. He will help them from a technical perspective. He will help them from any challenges they are facing. However, the team is going to continue to report to the PMs for any other things apart from the project related stuff. So if you see standard agile practices, PM is not required. However, if you see Indian market or an industry, will always have a PM in agile project, and Scrum Master will always be there, but he will take care more on the efforts from the technical side and help team to proceed further in the project.
Okay, okay. That clarifies. Thanks. Now, the next thing is in terms of once you become a business analyst, in your views, because you have spent years in working as a business analyst, what do you see are the critical success factors to succeed as a business analyst?
Okay. I will list few of them, though this area or the arena is big enough because we can measure business analysts on different factors, but just to share a couple of things. First, as I said in my initial starting period, that when you gradually go ahead with your BA experience, you need to first understand that whatever problem or opportunities you are looking at, you need to first look it from an enterprise level and then move out to a detail level. So first factor would be like you need to understand the big picture and then go into the smaller picture. So that's one factor. Second is how good is your rapport with stakeholders. So like communication with stakeholders, that is one of the key areas. So if person is not able to build a good rapport with stakeholders, doing stakeholder analysis or management will not treat him as a successful lead. That's the second one. Third is professional certifications are going on a high demand now in market. Many organizations, as I take interviews as an interview panel, in their JD, it's specifically mentioned that certified peer are more preferred compared to that. So it's always an advantage that you prove yourself in the international market as a third thing. And fourth is how skilled you are working with BA tools, what kind of different tools or techniques you can use to do elicitation, at the same time documentation and presenting your views that you have understood. And finally, not the least, how good you are interacting with your team. So you should not be having a big attitude. Just say, okay, I have documented, this is what you need to do. You need to have soft skills and you need to have good relation within your team, whether it's a dev or QA, anything. So these are like a couple of factors I think can be considered for a successful business.
Okay, that's quite useful actually. Yeah, Dinap, what do you think?
So, according to me, I think the first and foremost success factor for business analyst that he should focus entirely on bringing the customer value. I think once the business analyst and the customer are on the same page, then only they can understand as to how they can bring in more value, which will bring in more revenue to the customer. So a business analyst is also supposed to have some really great interpersonal skills and build a good relationship and a rapport with the client. The client needs to see the business analyst as the man on the ground, that this is my go-to guy for anything, and he's the guy who is responsible for understanding my requirements and understanding how we are going to go about it. Another important factor which I think is that you should know when to ask the right questions at the right time. The question should be very clear. One should never hesitate to actually ask the questions. The communication should be very clear and effective. A business analyst, although a business analyst is required to be diplomatic in terms of when he's trying to negotiate, but I think in my experience, I have mostly realized that honesty plays a huge role. So you should never try and take the client for a ride. You should try and be honest. You should also raise flags as and when required to the client without any hesitation, and always be proactive and keep the client in loop. I think the client rules, the customer is king, and I think if the client is in loop and he's aware of most of the situations, then that really does the trick in building relationships and taking its course over the project life cycle.
Right. So basically, you people have touched upon the most important factors actually, and that summarizes almost everything, which I also feel are basically the success factors for business analysts, because they are in a very delicate role of balancing the communication with the customer as well as the technology. So it's important, and they have to manage the balance between these two without being seen as siding with one side.
Yes.
Right? You have to win the trust of both the sides. That's very important. And you cannot do that without being honest and transparent.